welcome to In the Know with CaT Bobino. And today, my extra special guest is Dr. Natoshia Anderson. Thank you for coming to be a part of the show. She is a podcast host as well, Stemming in Stilettos, and she's also a CEO and a wonderful woman in STEM. Welcome to the show.
Hey, CaT. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I can't even, we need to support each other. So it's first as women of color in STEM, but also as fellow podcasters, because it's hard out here.
Yes. Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, okay. So I am Dr. Natoshia Anderson. I am an engineer, turned educator, turned entrepreneur. I'm a triple E. So, so I was a mechanical engineer for 10 years. I got my degree from Kennesaw State University in mechanical engineering, and I did that for 10 years. So I've designed everything from train car parts to systems that go into buildings. And so I ran the gamut. Mechanical engineering, as you may know, is one of the most versatile engineering that exists out there. It covers so much. Mm-hmm. So that was my experience in my career. And then I decided to go into education because I felt like that was the next logical step for me, especially having had those experiences where I was the first and only, or the only, and there was this intersection where where we're a minority and a woman, and so we're a double minority, and so I was always like, I don't know why there's not more of us here. And so I went into education with the idea that, hey, they can see me every day as I'm teaching them math, or I'm teaching them science, or I'm teaching them some engineering. And so I did that for about 4 or 5 years at the K-12 level. And then I went to our local community college for a summer job and literally did not leave. I was there for 13 years in various and sundry roles, from an instructor to a director to a dean, before deciding to leave. And I started my own business. It is now called the Nerdy STEM Queen Enterprises. So it's all about empowering women of color in STEM to stand up for themselves in the workplace and to stand out in their chosen professions. So there are so many of us, whether that's Black, Latina, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, that are out there, and we're brilliant. I mean, we just are. We're doing the darn thing, but there are in environments where they're not allowed to grow and prosper, speak their mind, dress the way they want to dress, show up as their authentic selves. And so that's what my work is to help them do that.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's an amazing journey that you have gone through to get to where you are now. So what was it like being a professor, being a dean, and sharing your knowledge with the next generation?
Oh, so that was a part of the joy of, and I think that's a part of the joy of being a teacher, is like you get to impart knowledge into others. But being able to be a professor and you're talking with future engineers or future technicians or future people who are working in STEM, it was such a joy. And I miss it still sometimes because I haven't been able to do it. I was a part-time instructor or adjunct professor for a little bit of time, but now I don't have time to do it. But being able to sort of impact their lives in that way, answer those real questions about what it's like to really be in the industry is so important. And I think that's a part of the piece that's missing for a lot of girls and women who want to go in there, go into engineering. They haven't seen anyone who looks like them, who can answer questions, who can tell them the real deal, tell the stories, both the good and the bad stories, and give them the
Right.
lowdown, what it's like. So I love that part of the job.
Yeah, I mean, I think giving back and making sure people see someone who looks like them doing work in STEM is very important, but also spreading the knowledge of the different types of careers. So, as a mechanical engineer, what are some of the things people can look forward to career wise if they decide to do that type of field?
Ooh, okay. So now that's a great question. So as I said, because I love being a mechanical engineer. I can't. I'll tell a funny story. So when I was, well, it's funny to me. Um, so when I was deciding to be an engineer, I didn't really know what engineering was until I was maybe a junior in high school. Had never met another female engineer. Just thought it was something really cool, and I got involved with a program called Inroads,
Hmm.
and they take you through this wonderful journey through the world of engineering, or at least they did when I was doing it. So we got to shadow or job shadow with some engineers at engineering firms and doing some of these other things. And we had a whole list of the types of engineering, right? So it was like chemical engineers, they tell us what that is. And we have a person who's standing there talking to us about it. I was like, nope, nope. So electrical comes up, and I was like, okay, yeah, nope. I
Nope.
don't, nope, nothing about electricity, electronics, electrons. Nope. I just knew that you guys don't want that for yourselves to have me
Right.
there. So, but then we got to mechanical, and I was just like, okay. So my dad was a mechanic. So I understand, and in my mind, like and it wasn't that he was a car mechanic or a truck mechanic, but it was the fact that the thought of being able to design and put things together. I understood that because that was my life growing up
Right.
in the garage with my dad, tinkering, building stuff, taking it apart, coming, just redesigning stuff. My dad designed race car engines.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, I mean, from scratch, like all the parts of, just not together. He would put them all together. We would crank that baby up. He would figure out what was wrong with it or what he needed to tweak, do that, and then sell it for like a lot of money. So I knew what that was. And so that just felt like home to me. And when I got into the field, so again, my first job was I was designing train car parts. So you don't think about it, but trains have to be
Yeah.
designed. They have to be made. Those wheels don't just happen. That carriage doesn't just happen. I actually designed the train car for uh, the train car that actually carried cars from a manufacturer to the showroom floor.
Right.
So, and it's specialized. So those cars, you just don't drive the car in and park it. There's all sorts of mechanisms and things that have to happen in that train car. And so that was really special for me for that to be my first job. Then I went to a manufacturing plant where we were building lathe machines that were at the time dealing with fiber optics. And in that family, then I went to a car company. So I worked for one of the biggest car companies in the world for a while, making car parts and designing cars. And then I went into the world of HVAC, fire protection, piping and plumbing. And so it was like it's like the same job description, a mechanical engineer who's able to do these things applied across them all. And so if you are thinking about engineering at all, again, not poo-pooing the rest of them, we need them all.
Yeah.
Civil, environmental, architectural, electrical, all of them. We need them all. But I know for a fact and from experience that mechanical engineering will take you anywhere you want to go, and you can do almost anything you want to do. And that to me is not an exaggeration.
Well, that's really awesome, and it goes to show some of the things that you've already were accustomed to. spilled over into your career. I mean, seeing your dad as a mechanic, working with race cars, and then spilling over to you becoming a mechanical engineer and still working with engines and things like that. So that's really cool. And I think sometimes we don't see women in that type of arena, thinking a woman will be working with car parts or train parts and things like that. So how was it for you? I'm sure as probably a solo Black woman working with in that industry.
It was hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was hard. Because you are absolutely right when you say that there weren't. It was 6 years into a 10-year career before I saw another Black woman engineer. Like 6 years into it. I mean, and this is being totally truthful, but it's not. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh my God, don't go into it. But that's a true story. So another Black woman engineer. So that doesn't mean that I didn't experience other female engineers or women engineers, but I didn't see someone who looked like me for 6 years. And so there were rooms that I was in where I was the only woman and the only Black person, or the only person of color, or the only minority, or however you want to put that. I was all of those things. I was all of
you was all encompassed of all of
That's
it.
right. That was it. And I'm not saying that it was all bad, right? I had some really great friends from when I was an engineer. We're still friends to this day. And so I walked away from it with so many lessons learned, so many experiences that were both good and bad that I feel like was worth it, right? I don't regret my career choice at all. Everything has brought me to where I am now. And so I try to look at experiences I had as a mechanical engineer. I look at all of the buildings. I love driving by like some stadiums, and like the Mayo Clinic is where one of the systems that I designed is in there right now, right? Clemson football stadium, we designed the HVAC. The company I was working for at the time, we designed the HVAC for the locker rooms in that stadium. So anytime I'm there, I'm like, yeah, there's several schools around the local area where I can look up and I know that the system that's in the building we designed. I look at some train cars going past, and if they were manufactured by, the company I work for, I'm always like, man, I had a hand in that. And so there's something to that. When you take an idea that came from a thought from somebody else, you've added to it, and then you got to see this thing go from paper to a real thing. That's magic. That's magic.
That's awesome. So I just want to remind everyone we're in the know of CaT Bobino. This is Dr. Natoshia Anderson. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope at the same time. So if you have any, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free. We'll see them, or I'll see them in the chat. So Ushana Sylvia has already given thumbs up to you and all the things that you're doing. So thank you for that. But yeah, that conversation of being the only one in the room can sometimes be a hard conversation, but it doesn't negate your worth, and for you to continue on with your projects and being able to see all the things that you have accomplished being that person in the room. How does that make you feel looking back on it?
So that's really interesting, because I'm still a work in progress, right? I look back. So of course you're in the midst of it, and when you're going through, you're all, or at least if you're like me, you're not trying to look for the lessons. You just trying to look for a way out, right?
Yes.
Stop, right?
Yes.
But now that I've had the opportunity to sort of look back on it, and be more, I don't want to say critical, because that's not the right word, more like introspective about it. What things can I take from that experience, whether that was good or bad? And how is that helping me move forward now? I know that I became more resilient studying to become an engineer. I know that I know how my brain works, having had to be a problem solver at work. When a project didn't work, or these calculations didn't, weren't adding up. When the client decided to, change something off the fly. Same thing when you're in academia. I can see where the engineering design process that we as engineers kind of take for granted, because it's a part of the way we think, and we've kind of grown up with it, right? It's one of the first things you get taught in engineering in school is the engineering design process. And whether that's 7 steps, 9 steps, 5 steps, whatever it is, you've learned it, you've internalized it. It becomes a part of the way that you solve problems. And so haven't really hadn't really thought about how I use that, but teachers do that all the time. You are given information, you're given a few minutes where and by giving information, it might just be coming from your students, like, this is not going to work for this group. I have to make changes. That's the engineering design process. You have an idea or you have a problem, you come up with ideas on how to solve the problem, you choose one, you do that. Either it works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you need to make changes and keep it moving, right? So that's. So all of those lessons came from the basis of my engineering experience, and so I will never, and I really do mean I will never I will never regret my time there. I will always treasure the lessons learned there. And I would tell this to anyone. It is a great profession. It is in the STEM arena in general. Again, I'm biased because I'm an engineer. So I'm always about the E, right? I'm a work there. But it provided me with an opportunity to become more of myself. And the more of myself that I become, I can see the part that being an engineer has played in that. So I miss it some days really, really, really bad. Like, just the idea of sort of taking a thought and then making that become a reality in engineering is quite different. It's quite a different experience. I've done it before with programs that I've run and some curriculum that I've developed. Some of that stuff has been really rewarding, but there's nothing that has been able to recapture that experience that you have in engineering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I know the thought of being biased. I'm biased with the S in the science part of STEM. So, I always tell people, if there's anything you want to know science, I can probably help you out. But if you want to know the TEM, I will find somebody to help you out.
You know what? But there's nothing wrong with that. See, that's the part where I think it sort of trips a lot of people out, like, or up, is that it's like, if you're a scientist, then great. Be a scientist. I'm not, ain't nobody hating on it. Right now, you guys are in vogue. I mean, seriously, because of where we currently are. But I believe you when you speak. I want, because I know how hard that work is, or I understand how hard that work is. Being a scientist is not this easy thing. And I think people have an idea in their mind about what it is and what it entails. And everybody's like, oh, okay, whatever. Y'all, they earned everything. Everything. They earned it. They did. So I'm for it.
Oh, that's good. So we have a question from Facebook from Tavari. What advice would you give youth now? What advice would you give youth now trying to overcome the obstacles to become a STEM individual?
Okay. So let's talk about the idea of an obstacle, right? An obstacle is something that's in front of you that is blocking your progress to what you believe is on the other side. So you can, of course, the options are to go up, over, or on the sides, right? Well, it's always been my thought is to try to go through it, you know? Um, and I know that's really not, the nice pie in the sky answer. But there are so many lessons we can gain by the idea of perseverance. Now, I preface all this with saying that if it's detrimental to your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health, then no, don't do it. Say something, say I will advise you to, figure out if there's something else that you can do, a place you can go, someone that you can talk to about how to get over and through and around. But if you feel and believe that this is something that you can persevere through and that there are lessons learned through the process that is going to help you be better, then stay the course because we need you. Find someone to talk to that is a STEM professional or in the STEM world. And so let's be clear that there are many professions that people believe or people don't know are STEM related. Our technicians, most of those are all STEM related. In people in the medical field, those are STEM related careers. Welding, HVAC technicians and work, like all of those are STEM related fields that people don't necessarily think of as STEM. So find someone to talk to about your problems, about what you're experiencing, and get advice. And then take that advice. So that's the other thing. So it's one thing for you to, you get the 5 steps and then you don't do the 5 steps. You got to do the 5 steps. You got to do the thing. And then, of course, if you can adopt the engineering design process mindset, where it's, okay, I have an idea or I've been given the steps, I'm going to do the steps. They didn't quite turn out the way I thought they would, but let me see where in these steps that I might have done something wrong, or I might have done it differently. And let's see if I can make changes there to see if I can get to where I'm going to go. And so it's not the quick, dirty, cute answer, the pat answer where people are going to memorize it. But that would be the thing that I would tell you. Anything worth, pursuing or doing that way you're going to be presented with obstacles. It's a part of the package. And so it's about you basically looking at these obstacles as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that, I just read a quote today that said, often in our lives, obstacles are merely opportunities in disguise. And if we can look at it that way, then it becomes, what can I learn from this opportunity?
Right. Absolutely. And I love that answer. And one of the things that I have learned over the last few years, and I continue to learn, is that there are so many career options in STEM. It's not, subjugated to the little things we learn about in high school or even college. It's such a broad spectrum, and things that you might have done in your childhood can be a part of it. So 2 ladies I spoke to yesterday, they are professional divers who reconstruct oil rigs and then make them habitats for marine life. Well, a lot of them are already habitats once they've been in the water a long time, things start to attach, but
Right.
they create more sustainable habitats from old oil rigs.
Ooh, I love that. I think that work is really needed, especially if we're talking about how we can really dig into trying to save our environment.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that you're absolutely right. There are so many careers that are STEM or STEM related that we kind of take for granted. Like
Right.
we don't, or maybe we haven't categorized them in our minds about what, where that career suddenly falls. But they're STEM careers, and they don't get the play, and they're not as sexy as being an engineer or being a technologist or being in IT for being a statistician or a data scientist, because these are all big words and big careers that people are now talking about in great detail. But there's, I mean, the work that our technicians do, the work that nurse practitioners do, the work that like our radiologists and some other folks do, it's really important, and they don't get talked about. They don't get the recognition that the rest of us do, because of course, engineers, we make a lot of money. This is what the people say.
Yeah.
It's what the people say.
Yeah.
We're up here living our best lives. Never mind that, I mean, it's probably true for some people, but I think we're doing work. We're still working.
Right, absolutely. And the engineers that I know, it's a broad spectrum of the type of work that they do. And you just never know. But as long as it's something that is something that you like, something that's in your wheelhouse, and that you don't mind going to work every day to do, it's just doesn't mean it's not STEM related. It's STEM related, and it could be fun, and it's more than what we see on TV or hear about every day.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Again, like they just don't get the play. Welders are, I mean, that's a job that is a highly skilled technical job, where they have the potential to make a lot of money. It is what we would term a blue collar job, and people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. But I can tell you, the welders that I know, they're good.
Listen, the AC heat and AC people that I know
are good.
they doing good. They doing good. So, I can't hate on any of that. My biggest thing is when I meet people, especially kids, who say, I don't like math. And I'm like, well, you like money, right? I think you do like math. Or, if you know all the stats of this basketball player, baseball player, trust me, you like math. It's all encompassed.
Yeah, and I've heard that so often. And I just want to be a little truthful and a bit transparent. I'm really tired of I can't do math. I really am over it. I really am just I want to end that conversation, even though I think it's probably still one we need to be having. Because the idea of I was really bad at math. And while, okay, there are those of us who, for some reason, math is a little bit more difficult than for other people. But again, like you were saying, if you can tell time, if you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, then you can do math. Every single equation, from simple mathematics on the way up to the most complex algebra and calculus problems, you are going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide in some way, shape, or form. And usually it's just a matter of when you do any of those things. It's like, that is my breakdown of math. That is the way I look at it. That's my belief. And that may come off as a little, I don't know, elitist or feminist or whatever it is, but it is that's the truth. As I know it to be. So I'm over that conversation about being not so good at math.
Oh, I get it. I'm the same way, especially with the math conversation. But I will tell anyone, when I was in school, physics wasn't my friend. It was not my friend. But I don't go around saying I don't understand physics or I don't do physics. You know what I'm saying? Yes, physics was a little bit harder for me to get accomplished than straight biology classes, botany class, whatever. But just because it's a little bit more difficult doesn't mean you can't do it. Me driving my car every day is physics.
Yeah, well, true. acceleration, velocity, all of speed.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing, like mine was chemistry. Like I was like, what? Electrons, neutrons, protons, I just, and then having to put together those, the chemical reactions, like
Mm-hmm.
for me, that was hard. That was difficult. But of course I made it through. And of course, in engineering, I think I had to take 2 or 3 chemistry courses. I had to take 4 physics, 5 calculus classes. So it was like there was no getting around it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah.
you're gonna do this thing, girl. If you're gonna be in engineering, you're going to be proficient at the very least in these areas. So there's
Absolutely.
that. So
No, I know. And that's the thing is when they say I can't do this, it's like, no, you can. It might be a little bit harder, but you can, and you're gonna do it so we can get to the next level.
right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? So that's what that is.
Right. And do you think, okay, so do you think I want to say, I think it's a mindset that gets in there really early, right? Gets in your head really early. I can't do math. My dissertation was actually a study on math and science courses, middle school girls, their achievements in mathematics and science courses. And
Girl,
so,
you ain't saying nothing but a word. My master's was talking about boys and girls in STEM and how they get discouraged in elementary. But please continue.
correct. Well, that was, and then here are some of the results from doing that is that girls get discouraged really early by mainly their family members, their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their cousins, their grandmamas, the people who were saying, girls aren't good in math, or I wasn't good in math. And so for girls, they internalized that to mean, hey, if my mama, if my dad, my cousin, my best good friend can't do math, then what does that say about me? Now, like think about that for a bit, but it really does affect the way they believe their math abilities develop. And so I had a class, and that was the reason I did it on that subject. I was always going to do something on STEM. But I had this class, and it was a gifted class. So there were 16 students in this class, 14 of which were girls. The majority of them were African American girls. They were, Miss Anderson, I don't, this is so hard. I studied for 3 hours last night. I just don't know if I can do, like, all the time. Meanwhile, your average in my class is like a 97,
Mm-hmm.
99. You busted out the last test. You got a 95 on so these things. So I was like, the thing you believe about yourself is not true. And you
Mm-hmm.
have evidence to support that. But yet and still, you still believe that you're not cut out for this, that you can't do this. And it was bizarre. I was like, I have got to figure this out. Like, what is happening here?
Yeah. Yeah. And from what I had done my research on, it's also, unfortunately, some teachers, when you're in early elementary,
Yeah.
they start to call on the boys more when it comes to
Yeah.
a science or math question, and then by late elementary, early middle school, girls start doing the whole cliquish thing, and then it's
Yeah.
trying to be noticed and seen in your clique, and are noticed and seen by boys. And the smarter you are, the less attractive you are, and
Mm-hmm.
you start to conform and hide your intelligence in order to fit in. And I'm just like, I don't have any daughters. I only have a 3-month-old son that's asleep right here, and I'm like, we're not doing that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was one of the things that we did find out is that teachers, especially in early childhood, and this is not a slam against teachers, love
No.
teacher, but I am a teacher, and at my heart, am an engineer teacher. So it does, I think there is some unconscious bias there as it relates to boys and girls, right? So, and teachers, unfortunately, are the offenders in this case, in the fact that, and again, I'm thinking that they don't know that they're doing it, or at least what we kind of sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes they don't know that they're doing this, that they favor boys in math or science, or that they are leading girls towards more girlish things, the stereotypical girlish things, than they are boys to, there were no gender neutral stuff, especially, I'll speak about me because I'm not trying to tell anybody's age. But I can tell you there were no gender neutral, centers set up when I was in elementary school. So there was none of that happening.
Right.
And so teachers have a platform and a stage to set for kids. And I hope that if they're watching this, they can do some self-introspection, and really think about the effects that they have on kids, especially
right. And I think one of the things I saw, and I know we can talk about this forever, I'm gonna leave it at this, but one of the things I saw, especially kindergarten age, is the verbiage we use with kids. So you say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to ride dinosaurs in space. Like, well, you can't do that. That's impossible. Well, instead of saying that's impossible, say, well, tell me, how are you going to do that?
Right.
How can you do that? Because you never know what you're going to do.
Part of the reason why I wrote this book. Can y'all see my book?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's ABC Engineering book by me. You can look it up on Amazon, purchase it from there, or you could go to my website, which I think CaT's going to put in the chat and all that stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And get the book is because, and it's very diverse. So I was very purposeful with the illustrator that I wanted people who look like our kids, right? Black, brown, Asian, Latina, Hispanic, everybody, Indian, because to me, it's really important that we see images of ourselves very young. But it talks about careers in the book. It gives you some engineering terminology, but it also talks about careers. So there's different types of engineers in here, where your 6-year-old can read about what a mechanical engineer is, what an industrial engineer does, what a chemical engineer is all about. And so I think it's vitally important because, like you were saying, that these things are happening in our classrooms, like the way, and again, meaning no harm.
No.
I don't think teachers mean harm when they're doing these things, but it's like telling someone that their dream is not real.
Right.
And so you're crushing dreams in an offhanded way, but you're saying, hey, you can't do that.
Right.
And so you were saying with your verbiage, I love that.
Yeah, changing what we say, and like just say you're kind of lucky with this one because usually this little one is also on camera with me, but he's asleep right now. But I had a friend of mine on Facebook who was like, is he gonna go to STEM college at like 2 because he's seeing everything you do? I said, well, that's the point. He needs to see it, even though he only 3 months. He needs to see all of this that I'm doing, all the people that I've met, so that he too can be a part of this. But yeah, so it's drtasha.com. I am going to share her link. And can you, I know we was on that tangent, that's one of my things in my heart, but what can you tell us about, I know you have your own company, so tell us about your company and what you're doing now.
Okay, so the Nerdy STEM Queen it's all about helping women of color in STEM move themselves forward, and in whatever way that looks like for them, whether that's professionally or personally. And so it's coaching, but it's mainly like, I say it's coaching because that's the key term these days. I think I'm more like your chief motivation officer. Um, Seriously, I will
I love
be
it.
the CEO of your life, if you give me the opportunity. Because what I see happening is that there are, women who enter into the STEM fields, into STEM, are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 to 5 years, they're out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's a real shame. And of course, those numbers I don't know that I don't have the numbers off the top of my head about when we drill down into into that women number, to do the deep dive into the race and ethnicity percentages. So, because those are dismal to begin with.
Right. Right.
So when we say they're leaving, it's like, well, wait, if we're already at we're only at 3%, and out of the 3%, 58% of those are leaving. What?
Right.
Like, what is happening, right? So my job, and the reason why I do this job, is to help them with those coping skills, basically helping them learning how to be themselves in the workplace, and win, and win. And by winning, I don't mean like you got the next promotion, but if that's what you're going for, like, let's talk about how to do that.
Right.
But when you walk in and you are comfortable in your own skin, sitting at the desk, or you're out in the field, and you are comfortable with the people you work with, because some of that work is internal, and of
Mm-hmm.
course some of it's external, but that's a bigger problem, and I'm just one person trying to do a small part. I mean, but be a part of that solution also. But if I can help you be more of yourself in the workplace and help you to win, then I mean, I've fulfilled my whole purpose for being here. So, and that's a good segue, if you don't mind me talking through my podcast.
Please do.
Um, so thank you. So there's my podcast. It's called Stimming in Stilettos. This is my heart work. I love this podcast because it has given me the opportunity to meet some really amazing women, Black women, women of color in STEM, who are doing some really uplifting, outstanding, commendable work in the STEM space. And I mean, we have a whole spectrum, from STEM educators to I think of Brittany Rose all the time, because she's a mathematician who is helping kids get math boxes,
Mm-hmm.
and just doing, like, that idea just blew my mind. I was like, yes, this is what we need. But so meeting just amazing folks who are working, amazing women who are working in the STEM space. Their stories are super amazing. And so they're out there. We're out here um,
Mm-hmm.
doing this thing, and we don't get recognition. So we talk about hidden figures. I'm tired of being hidden. I don't know about you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. I'm like, I'm here. This is what I do. Highlight me.
Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired of being hidden, and I want to be a part of becoming unhidden.
Yes.
So that these women, their stories, they're important. Young girls need to hear their stories, and not only that, but what I do on the podcast um, is have them really talk about their STEM story. But I also ask them that if they could go back and talk to their younger selves, what advice would they give them, and why? Because I think it's important. We all have a story. You have a story. I have a story. They have a story. But it's about the lessons that we've learned from those stories, and the things that we've done to move or push ourselves forward using those lessons learned. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's really not a lesson unless we've actually taken something from it, right?
Right.
Teacher can teach, but it doesn't mean that a kid learns, right?
Right.
And so experience is a teacher if we let it. And introspection is everything.
Absolutely. And so I want to let you know that I'm gonna steal chief motivational officer. I mean, I'm not gonna step on your toes and your business, but I love that title. Yeah. Because That's how I feel, when I especially pre-pandemic going to classes, talking to kids and being like, this is what I've done. These are the people I've met in the process. And this is things that you can do. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm going to be like, I don't want to take your thunder, but I love that title, and like I had saw a little girl, it was a little Black girl, and I think her parents had helped her write a book. She couldn't have been more than like 7, but she was the chief inspiration officer, and I was like, oh, okay, I ain't mad at that. We
This
gonna
is
make
it.
sure. Yeah, we making sure these kids know it. Y'all chiefs, y'all
Yes.
CEOs, suites, y'all in the C-suite. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? I
Yes.
love it. And but
Yes.
you're
Okay, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you're helping out with the imposter syndrome that women, especially women of color, tend to have, and so that's amazing. But what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just going to reiterate the fact that it is really important that we are out here telling our stories.
Mm-hmm.
I just did a talk at FAMU the other last. This is still February, right? This is still February.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was the greatest honor of my life to do that. And I talked about the importance of us telling our stories, and which is what they're able to do on the podcast. And it's literally the whole, people are like, what's your podcast about? Do you, how do you help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the podcast. And I'm like, I tell people stories. This is what we do. I tell the stories of women of color in STEM. I give them a free platform and a safe platform to tell their stories. You can tell me anything. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is a safe space, because that's a part of the thing, is that we are in spaces that have not been created for women at all, and especially not for women of color in STEM. We walk into buildings every day into enemy territory. And I know that sounds like, whoa, right? But sometimes it really does feel that way. No one here understands what it's like to be the only. No
Mm-hmm.
one here understands what it's like to be the first and the only. No one here is being asked to answer questions for an entire race of people or an entire gender of folks. No
Mm-hmm.
one here is being asked to hear stuff but not really hear stuff. And you really can't be expected to be affected by it, even though it was offensive and not appropriate for the workplace. No one else is having those experiences.
Right. I mean, girl, preach. But we've been seeing, Black Lives Matter, especially over the last few years, and then we get these invitations to come speak now because we got to have a Black person be the face right now so we can say, oh, we're not racist, we're doing this, look at this Black person speaking for us. And it's like, no, we're not your token, we're not the person you come to because everything else in the world is looking bad. Have us a seat at the table now. And I think it was Shirley Chisholm said, if they don't have a seat at the table, make your seat, bring your seat. Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought her up. So Shirley Chisholm is if I had to have an idol, she would be it. Okay. I just think that because she did the thing. She did the thing in a time when especially a person like her was not supposed to be doing any of that. She was supposed to be taking a seat in the back and being happy that she was allowed to be wherever she was, and I admire her for just pushing forward and saying, no, you will see me. You will hear me. I am going to use my voice for the betterment of my people and for my gender. And so anytime I find a quote from her, I actually have her book, Unbossed and Unbought. It's a guiding principle, her book, or the principles in the book help to guide me. Anytime I feel like I'm like, man, what is happening? What am I doing out here? I go and pick up this book and I read a couple of passages because I'm thinking to myself, if she can persevere through in the time in which she was trying to do the thing, then who am I? Who am I to just want to sit down now?
Oh yeah, I had a professor. He was my mentor before he passed a few years ago. And his thing was our ancestors were stolen from a country, put on a boat, put in enslavement, hunted, killed, raped, tortured. And they did all of that so that you could be here. You are the product of this history, and you can't sit there and be quiet. You just can't. You cannot do that because you are disrespecting your past. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me get up, make sure I'm doing something correct.
That's right. I hear him. He's adorable.
Thanks. Yeah, he's awake now. Let me get. Here's Carter. He's.
Aw, hi, baby.
Yeah.
Aw, adorable. Yeah, he's the reason, right, that we get up and we do things, right? I have a son and a daughter, and I am always proud of them and on every day of the week. But I know that the work that I'm doing is going to make the world a better place for them, and for their kids. And so
Yes.
that keeps it pushing. That keeps me pushing too. So
awesome. Yeah, me too. I would tell anyone I lived a very selfish life for 30 plus years, and now I can't be selfish anymore. I gotta do for somebody else.
And it's so funny. It's like I did I don't know who I was talking to, but we were talking about the word selfish and what it really means. And so I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking of being selfish. Well, selfish was always presented to me like it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think of it as a bad thing anymore. I think we're in a time where being selfish is actually self-protection in some instances and self-preservation. So it's like thinking of oneself. Yes, you need to think of yourself. Like what your thoughts are, why you're thinking the way you're thinking, how are you physically, how is your spiritual life good, for yourself. You need to know these things. And so I'm not mad at you. You need to continue to be selfish.
Well, yeah, and that's what I tell people, for majority of my life, my main concern was me. I had to make sure I was okay because I can't help anyone else if I'm not okay. And
you just did that.
And now, my main concern is making sure he's okay. And I had this conversation with my partner because I was like, I don't care if I'm hurting people's feelings. It's a pandemic. Y'all can't come do this, X, Y, and Z because I'm worried about him. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about him. And he had to hear that.
Well, and people will. I had a shirt that says "Be you." They'll adjust. It's the same thing. Like you have to do you in this instance. People will adjust or they won't. I mean, and then it's their loss.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we're coming towards an hour. So as we close, last two questions. Number one, what can we see from you, hopefully, in the next few years post-pandemic?
Ooh, man, that's a loaded question. Okay, so this is so in the next, I'll just say that in the next couple of months, you'll probably see me a little bit of doing some speaking engagements, being a part of some panels talking about women's issues in general, or specifically talking about education in STEM or women in STEM. So you'll see those announcements that will start popping up everywhere in the next couple of weeks. So that's that. What is further down the line for Dr. Tasha is I have a couple of master classes that I'm currently working on and working through right now. Have a rough draft of them, running them by some trusted advisors before I put them out there So you'll be on the lookout for that. Go check the website frequently for updates on where, when and where to register for those master classes. I'm actually writing another children's book that I'm super excited about. But you'll have to wait for that announcement also, because I don't want to give away the name or anything like that. But it's all for girls, and specifically for girls of color who have an interest in STEM. You guys are going to love this book. I think parents are going to love this book. And so I'm really super excited about that. I'm going to continue to coach. So if you are thinking this is you and you want someone who looks like you to talk to you, either, a half an hour long, just to help you, plan out your next step, I'm your girl. You can, again, go to my website and look up what I have available and book your 30-minute, free 30-minute consultation with me. And then we will, I'm going to keep moving forward. This is my work. This is my purpose. And this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I know I'm in the right place.
Awesome. And then my last question is, how can people find you?
Yes. Okay. So I'm on all the social media. I say all the social media. I'm channeling my mother. Who said,
right.
They always put the in front of everything, right?
Right.
And so but you can go to my website, www.drtoshia.com. Tasha is spelled TOSHIA.com. Don't mention it, but that's fine. Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Tasha 11. On Instagram and LinkedIn, it's the Nerdy STEM Queen. So you can find me there. Hopefully you enjoy my post. You will click and like. You'll subscribe to the podcast. A new podcast episode comes out every Tuesday. We're everywhere podcasts are listened to. So download your Apple Podcasts, Google Playlists, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of them. We are there. Stimming and Stilettos. I think you might have to put it all in as one word on some of them to look for us, but subscribe and learn from these fabulous women that are on the show. So that's what I'm doing and what's up next for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on In the Know with CaT Bobino. I appreciate you coming and telling your story and being open and transparent with the audience.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for just giving me a platform to talk and tell my story and to tell people what I'm up to.
Awesome. Well, hope you have a good rest of today, Thursday. All right. Have a good rest of your Thursday.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the show. I appreciate all that took the time to watch today. We are going to start doing podcasts Wednesdays and Thursdays. Make sure you join us next Wednesday at 6 p.m. and then next Thursday at 11 a.m. Have a good rest of your day.